Hey guys, it's TheGearTester here, and welcome to an update video on my Marlin 336 Dark. Some of you may know that I broke my arm here about 3 weeks ago, and that's meant that I've had to discontinue testing of this particular rifle for another month or so. I've got a couple pins here in my wrist. I had to go in for emergency surgery, and I don't want to move those or risk moving those as the recoil of the gun against my right shoulder moves through the rest of my body. So I'm not doing any more shooting here for another month or so till I'm fully healed up of this gun. But I have been working on it, and I had been working on it, getting it ready to do some longer distance accuracy testing out to 200 yards and some things like that. So there's a couple changes that I've made on it. First, I cut off 1 inch of the stock. So I shortened the stock by 1 inch. It had a 13.75 inch length of pull, and now it has a 12.75 inch length of pull. Got a tape measure right here. I'll show that to you guys. It's probably easier if I flip it over. Like so. Measure that out. We're basically at 12.75 is about where we're at there. And I am actually really happy with that. That's actually a 1/4 of an inch shorter than my Marlin 336Y that I have, that's marketed as a youth gun, has a similar 16-inch barrel, but a different stock system here. I think this stock system is more accurate, or lends the rifle to be more accurate and is more sturdy. Interestingly enough, my Ruger Gunsight Scout, which actually has an adjustable shim system, is also 12.75 inches. That's the length of pull that I'm personally comfortable with and I really like. And I think it's important to have guns, particularly guns that are manually operated, need to fit you personally. And I wish that more companies, I hope Marlin is paying attention to this, but I wish more companies would do this shim system that Ruger has that allows you to adjust the stock and it comes with those components from the factory, so you're not having to do a hack job on your own. Interestingly enough, this stock seems to be made out of a pretty nice wood, has a nice tight grain, and is not a soft little pine stock. It's actually a better quality stock. Some people who are taking every opportunity to poo-poo Marlin were just sure that this was just an absolutely terrible quality of wood hidden by this crackle paint. And that's not the case, at least on mine. It seems to be a good hardwood that has tight grain. So there you go. I wish that more companies would have a shim system that would allow the guns to be easily modified to you, the shooter, or back again. But this was a pretty easy process. I have a friend that has a really nice shop, and he let me use some of his tools, and that made cutting down my stock very, very easy. I did manage, as I buffed down, or I trimmed down the recoil pad, because I used the same recoil pad that came on it. I did manage to nick the stock a little bit, but this is going to be a working gun. I can hit that with a little bit of paint. I tried to be very careful with how I measured and cut this stock. So I put the blue tape on first, and it represented, if I cut right to the blue tape, that was 1 inch that I was taking off the stock. Then I used a double wrap of the green tape to minimize scratching and damage to the stock or the paint job of the stock. The next problem I encountered is when I went to cut the stock, I needed to make sure that the stock was level so that I didn't get a strange angle on the buttstock and then have to spend a lot of time trying to even that up. So I had to use little shims there underneath the stock and then in the back of the stock so that I would be cutting a perfectly straight line down and not damaging the stock significantly. So you can see these little shims are there. You know, I played with it till I had it basically perfect. Then we made sure to lock down the saw and lock down a board on top of the stock so there'd be minimal movement when we went to cut the stock. And this is kind of the moment of truth. Did we measure and organize things correctly, or are we going to have a weird angle when this is done? And we did a pretty good job on making sure that we got the right cut there. I did choose to even out the stock a little bit on a wheel. Then I made sure to measure carefully and replace the butt pad, and then we ground the butt pad. What I tend to do with these stocks, you may have noticed on my Gunsight Scout, is I tend to tape the rubber butt pads on these. I like that it's grippy here on the back of the butt pad, but I do not like that it's grippy here on the side as you go to shoulder the gun. Sometimes that catches and slows you down. So I use good quality electrical tape. That needs to be good quality, expensive electrical tape. I like the 3M stuff by Scotch. and I tape it up the sides so it doesn't rub against my clothes. And so I've done that. I will do that here. I left it because I wanted you guys to see my stock cut down job, and then rounding off the butt pad was not perfect, okay, but it was fully functional, and the gun is it was functional for me, and I can still use the gun well. So I've done that. I cut down an inch off the stock, which is something I've been planning on doing and had done before I managed to break my arm. Then I mounted a Trijicon TR24R onto this gun. This is a 1-to-4 power variable optic with an adjustable focus eyepiece, and this is an awesome optic. You can adjust the amount of light here, and I'll show a little picture of the reticle that this has. This has a kind of unique reticle. It's a post, okay, with a little triangle on it, and it lends itself at 1 power. I can shoot this almost as quickly as I can a red dot, and because this Marlin 336 and 3030 is really a brush gun, I wanted to be true to that. I'm not really trying to make this a long distance gun, but the optic does increase my capability with this gun. So I got the variable power 1-to-4. I imagine using this Marlin 336 from 0 to 200 yards. I could make an argument that you could probably stretch 30-30 out to 300 yards, but I wouldn't want to go much further than that. So this, for me personally, in my usage, is assuming that it ends up being relatively accurate, will be a 0 to 200 yard gun, and for that, I think the 1-to-4 is just perfect. Allows me on the 1 power to use it as a brush gun, but if I get out into more open country, or I want to zoom the focus up a little bit to see my target and make sure that I'm targeting the specific animal that I want, I've got that. And so I really like this optic. I've got it mounted on the XS big dot sight rail that came on my Marlin 336 dark from Marlin, and I really like the fact that you can just drop an optic on this. That is not the case in many 30-30 rifles, many lever action rifles. So the fact that it comes from the factory ready to have an optic dropped on it is amazing. I purchased my Trijicon TR24R about 1.5 years ago, and for most of that time it's resided on my Ruger Gunsight Scout, and it's gone on many hunting trips and to the range many times, and I've really enjoyed it. What I like about the Trijicon TR24R is the fact with its 1-to-4 power, it lends itself very well to shooting in thick underbrush. And I view the Ruger Gunsight Scout and the Marlin 336 Dark really as brush guns. Guns that are compact, easy to maneuver, and able to be deployed quickly for shots at moving targets at relatively close distances. And so in this case, the Trijicon 1-to-4 powered AccuPoint is a really great option for either the Gunsight Scout or I think particularly for the Marlin 336 Dark. Right, so we're just going to simulate a little close shooting with the Ruger Gunsight Scout here. So you can see right here, these are my 3 rounds and then some headshots. So with the Trijicon 1-to-4 optic, I had that on 1. I can just pop this up and see it's almost like a red dot and just shoot. Then I have the option, of course, of at greater distance spinning up. And in these snowy conditions, you'd think that that little the dot, the Trijicon triangle that's there might not be easily seen even on the snow. But with the screen all the way open, even here as it's starting to get dark, I am able to see that little glowing, hovering little triangle perfectly. Awesome package. I was able to harvest a beautiful buck this fall with my Ruger Gunsight Scout and with the help of the Trijicon TR24R. I've got it in Trijicon scope mounts that I really like. These are aluminum mounts, okay? They're these right here, the Trijicon AccuPoint intermediate aluminum rings, and they're excellent. They get the scope up high enough that I was able to zero my iron sights, and I was able to mount this and pop it on and off without having to do anything to my iron sights. I've noticed that some people have reviewed this gun, put optics on it, and they didn't get the right length of scope rings, so they actually took the rear sight off. I think that's stupid. This gun first and foremost needs to be fast and easily handling, which means you need to be able to shoot the gun with just iron sights. And if you want an optic is an addition, but I think it's really, this gun initially needs to be used iron sighted, fast, lightweight, and quick. And if you have an optic that increases some of your capabilities, you should be able to put that on but not lose your sight, your rear sight. These Trijicon scope rings take a 1/2 inch little wrench here, so I make sure to keep that with me so that I can tighten or loosen these rings as I need. And I keep this on me just in case I need to pop this off because it loses zero, gets damaged, and I need to go back to using my iron sights in a hunting situation. I guess you could use the same setup in a personal defense system as well. It wouldn't be my first choice, but it certainly would be advantageous to have something like this over and above just a pistol or a shotgun. So those are some of the changes I have made to my Marlin 336 Dark. I look forward to doing some longer range shooting with this gun, 100 yards, 200 yards, and sharing that with you guys here next month. Thank you very much for your views and your subscriptions. This is the Gear Tester signing off.